welcome to all my students, grade 10. My name is Talal Marghani. I'm a teacher of grade 10. Today, just what we are going to discuss and explain a grammar review on upstream grade 10 conditional sentences. So, the first thing, just you have to know about the conditional sentences. What do we mean by this? Conditions deal with imagined situations. Some are possible that may be or could be happened. Some are unlikely and some are impossible. Conditional clauses are usually introduced by subordinating conjunctions if. So look at this sentence. If it rains, we will stay in the house. The first important thing you have to know here in this sentence in what? In the first conditional. And you have to know that we have two parts of what of the sentence. The first one is what is if clause, and the second one is main clause. So, what is the difference here? That means if clause separated from the main clause by comma. And this, what we call it subordinate clause when the sentence is starting with if. Some strategies are done in what in conditional sentences. That means the main clause here comes in the first and the if clause comes in the second. But there is a difference. When we are going to change the main clause to be in the first, that means there isn't comma in what in the sentence. So the sentence here, how can you answer properly, for example in exams, because most or the style of what of these questions come in MCQs or multiple choice questions. That means may you are given the if clause and then you have to answer the main clause. And it's a vice versa. When the main clause comes first, okay, you have to choose the if clause which contain present simple. And this case for the first conditional or if one, and sometimes it's called type 1. The first conditional, if plus present simple plus future tense, and the future tense here we use the modal verb will or shall. Modal verb with future reference sometimes could be may. A speaker or writer predicts a likely result in the future if the condition is fulfilled. So what this sentence means? The writer or a speaker predicting, that means because an action, it could be possible to happen in the future. So there is here an example. If Sally comes to, there will be 5 of us. So here, if Sally comes here, the verb plus S, and that means it refers to what refers to the first conditional present simple in what in the if clause. And some students may confuse by choosing sometimes the verbs here wrongly. And there will be. Will here is what is contracted from will. And contraction, it means some letters are omitted and is usually used in the spoken language. If they promote her, she will get a big pay rise. What does it mean? This word promote. Promote, that means In the field of economy, promote, that means for a person or an employee, maybe an employer, when he gets a progress in his work, okay, they give him promote or promotion. So promote here is a verb and promotion is a noun. We won't have enough time. We won't have enough time if we want to do some shopping too. So here, the sentence begins with what? With the main clause. And that means it's different totally from the first one. We won't have enough time. That means the main clause comes in the first. And if here, there is no comma. If you have attention for the first one, we have a comma. But in the second one, we don't have a comma. Why? Because the main clause comes in the first one. We won't have enough time if we want to do some shopping too. Let us just move to another rule of conditional sentences, something that we call it what? Unless. And unless it means if not. Here we have examples. She won't come unless you invite her personally. And what does unless mean here? It means she won't come if you don't invite her personally. Unless you can reduce the weight of that case, I'm afraid you won't be allowed on the flight. It means if you can't reduce. So this is what the meaning of unless, and some students or the majority of the students have absent and exact knowledge of using unless in conditional sentences. So what I need from you, unless as a rule, it should be practiced in exercises, and even some exercises, or the most of exercises are available on the website. Here we have put an exercise. Put the verbs in brackets into the correct tense. So this is a kind of the task, and sometimes the task may be different totally. For example, in the exams may come as multiple choice questions. For example, as we have mentioned before, may you have the if clause, and then you have to bring the main clause. And pay attention here, if you have the if clause, that means you should be in your mind to use the modal verb, want or will, for example, in the first, and here rain as a verb should be used carefully in the sentence. Rain, ask, bus, be, and be here, it means is, and are, and the last verb is study. If it dash, this evening I want to go out. So what I need from you here, think about the answers, and I will give you 1 minute quickly, just what to think about answers, and then after that we are going to check all the sentences one by one here. Okay, Now, these are what are the answers. In what is the first sentence, the verb is what is rains. Why we use S for what were the verb? Because we have want here and go as infinitive. So we add S to the verb. Number 2, if I need your help, I will ask. And as we have mentioned before, that means will here is contracted from will. Number 3, everyone will be surprised if he passes the exam. And here you have to attention because some students put the verb pass with what? With adding S only. And you have to know that when the verb ends with SS, you have to add ES to the verb. Hurry up and will be annoyed if we are late. And annoyed, what does it mean? It means very angry. Someone that is very angry from someone that who is doing wrong action against him. 5, you won't pass the exam unless you study more. So this is for first conditional. Now let us move to the second one. We call it what? The second conditional. If plus past simple tense plus would or could or might plus infinitive. So the definition is a speaker or writer responds to possible or hypothetical situation by indicating a possible outcome. The condition must be fulfilled for the present or future to be different. What we need here, that means the second conditional is different totally from the first conditional because it refers to the past, okay, while the first conditional in the present, we use in the first conditional will, but here we use would and could and might, and even what the same for first and the second conditional, that means the verb is infinitive. We don't add any, just words to the verb. So these are examples. If I knew what you wanted, maybe I could help you. I don't know what you want, you must tell me, and this is what? The meaning of this sentence. And here the verb in what in the past? Knew. And K is what is silent. Example number 2, I would do a computer course if I had the time. And what this sentence means, it means I don't have the time. Why? Because the sentence here refers to unreal past, because I don't have enough time for doing a course, so I would say this sentence as or like that. We have another form of what of the second conditional. Sometimes we have this expression, if I were you, and mostly or the majority of sentences when it starts with what is if I were you, you have to put in your mind that means we use would and the verb should be infinitive. If I were you, I would tell him the truth. But in fact, I don't know. If I was you, it means I'm not you. So this, as an exercise, put the verbs in brackets in the correct sense. If I found 100, in the street. I dash it. And the verb here between brackets, keep, and for the second one, not. And here, not is what is the negation. And sometimes used before the verb or main verb in negation usage. Number 3, the verb is close. And number 4, go. And number 5, visit, even preceded by negation not. And number 6, take. So here, what I need from you here to think about what? About the answers, and you should bear in your mind, that means the verbs here should be used in or preceded by would as an infinitive. So this is a model of what? Of answers for the sentences. If I found $100 in the street, I would keep it. So we use would before the main verb keep. Number 2, if she sold her car, she wouldn't get much money for it. So wouldn't get, this is an answer for what? For the sentence number 2. We use would plus negation not, and the verb here should be infinitive. That means there isn't any adding or changing for the main verb. Number 3, many people would be out of work if that factory closed down. And closed, that means, what does it mean? Closed down as a phrasal verb here. And phrasal verb, what does it mean? It means any verb plus preposition, we called it what? We called it phrasal verb. So the factory closed down. Number 4, what would happen if you didn't go to work tomorrow? And here, the main verb is what is go, and is preceded by negation not. Number 5, they might be angry if I didn't visit them. So here we use might in what in the sentence, and the second or if clause comes in the second. If I didn't visit them, and you have to be attention for what? For the comma here is not found. Number 6, if I was offered the job, and this sentence, what kind of this sentence is what? Is if I was offered, something that related to what? To the passive sentence. If I was offered the job, because I don't know who is the person offer me the job or is going to give me or offer me the job, I think I would take it. So here the verb take. It's used but as an infinitive. Okay, now we are moving to the third rule. We call it what? The third conditional, and sometimes is known as type 3 or if 3. And if here plus past perfect tense plus modal verb would or could or might. So here you have to attention that would isn't constant modal verb used in what in the third conditional. Why? Because we may use could or might plus perfect infinitive. That means have plus past participle. And kindly you have to revise all the verbs in upstream grade 10. That means the last pages consists of what? Of irregular verbs. You have to keep them by your heart, and you have to know all the past participle of the verbs, because you can't answer the sentences in the third conditional cases unless you keep all the verbs in past participle, and you should be familiar with all these verbs in what in the past participle. So let us just express and explain the definition. Unimagined past situations is described. And imagine, that means is not real. Past situations is described. We are talking about a past event which did not happen, and therefore things are different from how they might have been. Another thing, for the third conditional, that means the speaker expresses something that regretting, or he feels sorry about something, or something that happened in the past, and he wishes that if these things wouldn't have happened to him or her. Look at these examples. If I had seen you walking, and pay attention, that means had here as the rule for if conditional 3. If I had seen you, and the verb here in what in the past participle of the verb see. If I had seen you walking, I could have offered you a lift. And that means I didn't see you. That means in real, I didn't see you, so I couldn't just offer you a lift. So that means what the meaning of the sentence. Tessa would have been furious if she had heard him say that. And furious, it means another meaning. It's an adjective, and another meaning for the word so angry. So furious, it means very angry from wrong actions happened to him or may happen to him. So Tessa would have been, and here the sentence, have attention here in this sentence, that means here the sentence is starting with what is the main clause, and if clause comes in what in the second. If she had heard. So had and heard, that means is if clause, and that the sentence meaning she didn't hear him. Because if she heard him, that means the case would be different. Exactly. If she had gone there, she might have enjoyed it. That means the sentence, as we have mentioned before, you have to pay attention for the verbs in F3, and we use the verb in the past participle, okay, here. And she might have, as we have mentioned before, in the explaining of the third conditional, that will not use should or would, and might here is used instead of would or could. Okay, this is an exercise for if conditional 3 or the first conditional 3. Put the verbs in brackets into the correct tense. So I will give you a minute just to share with me the answers, okay, before turning or removing to the next slide to show the answers. What I need from you here is trying to answer and putting the verbs, okay, orally here, and think about what about the right answer, how answers would be here in the spaces, okay? And at least just want to know if you did it well or not. Now I will give you a minute to think about the 5 sentences here. Okay, now let us move to the model answer of one of the 5 sentences in the third conditional case. I would have gone out if I hadn't been so tired. And tired means exhausted. I wouldn't have gone, and this sentence is starting with what is the main clause here, and if clause in what in the first comes in what in the second one. Number 2, if I had seen you, I would have said hello. But in fact, I didn't see you, so I wouldn't say hello for this case. Number 3, we would have gone out yesterday if the weather hadn't been so bad. And hadn't been here as, you know, the main verb, or we call it what the main clause here in the sentence. If I had known that you were ill last week, I would have gone to see you. And I would here is contracted from the modal verb would. And as I have mentioned before, it's used normally in the spoken language, not written. So here, the usage of I would, as a rule here, sometimes it can be used in one in the third conditional. Number 5, I would have been late for the interview if I had missed the bus. And here the sentence normally is starting with what is the main clause, and the if clause comes in the second one. Real situation. What do you mean by real situations here? As an example, if you want to learn the guitar, you really need to practice for at least a couple of hours a day. And that means, between 2 brackets, this sentence, it means for any person who wants to learn. The second bullet, if I criticize her unfairly, then I always apologize. And this sentence, it means what? It didn't, or it did sometimes happen that I criticize her and I did apologize. If you have a toothache as bad as that, you must go to a dentist today. And the next one, if steel is exposed to air and water, it resists rust for a considerable length of time. If you are getting backache all the time, then you are not sitting properly. Come over tomorrow around 5 unless my secretary contacts you. So all these examples of the third conditional case. Mixed conditionals. If he hadn't graduated with top marks, now he wouldn't have such a good job. If the island were still a tourist attraction, last week's earthquake would have caused far more death. Okay, this is an example of what exercise. Complete the sentences with the correct form of the verb in brackets 1, 2, 3, and 4, and I will give you a minute here to think about what about the answers, how they would be here, in the spaces. Number 1, 2. The first one here, the verb is what is be, and as we have mentioned before, it has different or changing forms of what of the verb. And the second one, not find, preceded by the negation not, and the third one, stop, and the last one, destroy. Destroy, that means what? It means damage or destruct something or ruin. For example, the furniture here. Okay, what are the answers here? B, it used as what as verb. And in the second one, some worms will eat themselves if they don't find enough food. Okay, and don't find here for the verb find, preceded by the negation here, don't. And number 3, the verb is what is would, stop. And number 4, the main verb here is, or the verb destroy, preceded by modal verb will. And number 5, would buy, preceded by would. And this sentence in the if conditional 2. If I had $1 million, I would buy you a beautiful house. But in fact, I don't have $1 million. So I can't, or I don't buy you a beautiful house. Number 6, if I had gone to the party last night, I would be tired now. Number 7, if I had gone to the party last night, I would have seen Anne. Number 8, if we had played better, we might have won. And 9, we would have gone out if the weather hadn't been so bad. 10, if I were you, and as I have mentioned before here, the usage of what if I were you, that means the main clause should be started with would. And 11, we wouldn't have any money if we didn't work. 12, if you stop smoking, you would feel healthier. And 13, if the museum charges for entry, a lot of people won't be able to visit it. And 14, if we had paid our cleaner more, she wouldn't have left us. And 15, I wouldn't be willing to help you unless you beg me. Okay, read situations and write sentences with if, and this, a kind of what of these exercises even are available on the website of the school and even on the LMS, Learning Management System, so students should do more practices on these models of conditional. All these are answers, and you have to write the case for the sentences. For example, here, we can't have lunch in the garden because it is raining. So what about the answer here? If it wasn't or weren't raining, we could, or sometimes between two brackets, would be able to have lunch in the garden. And all these are examples for these cases. And you have to practice more and more sentences on the conditional one. Finally, what I want to advise you, and it's highly recommended, you have to do more practices on the internet. Thank you very much, and see you later.